A warm and windy welcome to all our viewers joining in, and we are excited to host yet another episode of Author's Saga, sponsored by Pick a Book, where we tap into the magic of pen masters and understand a little more about their works of literature. Stay tuned because we have a very special guest today, a national treasure and a writer without borders, and we are going to talk about his journey and a very interesting book authored by him. Now, I'm sure all of you would agree that a life without books is an unfulfilled life, and from within the pages of a book is a wealth of knowledge, life lessons, and inspiration, which is why we at Pick a Book endeavor to bring together like minded people, avid readers, aspiring readers, and anyone who wishes to learn and share so we can grow together through the habit of reading. Readers at Pick a Book are encouraged to delve deeper into the book so that their in-depth understanding of that book can be shared with others in this amazing social movement. Pick a Book has marked its inspiring presence internationally, including Sri Lanka, India, UK, and also Singapore, with over 1,200 Pick a Book readers in 18 regions and with over 30,000 people inspired. I am privileged to be part of Pick a Book, and I'm sure all our readers love to be part of this amazing readers hub. So if you're wondering how you can get, become part of this amazing social movement and this revolution, just follow us on social media. You can log on to www.pickabook.club and you can speak to any of our inspirers. Now back to the program today, and we have a very, very special person, a talented writer, a humanitarian, and a really wonderful person who seeks to empower people everywhere he goes. And Mr. Pramudith Rupasinghe, the author of Bayan, Behind the Eclipse, and many other wonderful books, which I am privileged to have read. And of course, his roots in this little pearl island, but now a writer beyond borders and without borders, creating ripples across the world. Pramudith, congratulations on winning the prestigious Golden Aster Book World Literary Prize. And it is an honor to have you here, and I am looking forward to a deep and meaningful conversation and discussion on your book and your journey as an author.
Thank you so much for having me here as well.
I'm not sure if I can hear you, Pramudith, but I'm just going to go straight into the first question for you. And I'd like to ask you, what exactly is the Golden Aster Award, and how did you amass this success? And, did you really think that you would get this? How do you secure this kind of award? And what's your secret as a writer without borders? Over to you, Pramudith.
Thank you, Shamina. It's a really very good question for me to dive into the writing as well as to the award. So coming to Golden Aster Book, that's a literary prize given for world literature. That means it's not a prize that is given only for books that are written in English, but that includes Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and French literature as well. And it's given by Aster Academy based in Rome, Italy. And then if I answer, did I really expect something like that? First of all, I don't write for awards. I write for readers. And this is the only, that's the very first award my publisher applied for. And here comes, then I got it. And then coming to the next portion of your question about writing without borders. I've been writing stories set in foreign cultures since the very beginning. I think for that I was quoted by Daily Mirror once as writer without borders. And there's no exception when it comes to Bayan, because almost every book of mine has been written diverted from the culture that I represent, because I think I love the experience of challenging my own values, customs, comfort zone, familiar ecosystem, my bias especially, and try to inhibit a completely a different universe and write about it. And to do that itself, I think, to write without borders or cross-cultural writing, you need to be equipped with some skills such as cross-cultural intelligence, and also openness to experience, and plus high level of tolerance to different cultures, traditions, belief systems, etc., and then respect to diversity. And at the end, I think a little bit of diluted identity is also required. So I have not chosen to do any work of writing sitting in a balcony in a comfortable European city. Instead, going into deep into the places where my stories are set, I write.
Thank you, Pramudith. Now, you said that you need a particular skill, and I noticed, I have read the Bayan, and it's set in Ukraine, and you've captured the culture, the geopolitical scenario, three, I think, eras of change, the psychology of people. How do you make that effort? I mean, how do you really, as an author, as a writer, you really live in the story? How really does that happen, Pramudit?
I think when it comes to the cultures and digging deeper into them, what is paramount is, in cross-cultural writing, is that you need to understand the context where your story is set. That means that from the history to the modern time, and also social dynamics, those should be very thoroughly studied. Not only that, the people and the cultures viewed around them, uh, plus the landscape, so on and so forth. Uh, I think that level of understanding you can't get from the books. So you need to be physically present in the places where you set the scenes, or the places where your scenes in the stories are happening. Then you will experience the world you are trying to depict. That is the secret, I think.
I am absolutely in awe of that approach, Pramudit, because sometimes even, veteran writers, even we as writers, we think of sitting at a computer and just typing words. But I see in all your works, you've literally been in that place. And I'm sure in the next book that you're going to put out, you've literally been present in that. And I think that makes the story, that makes your writing, and that makes the purpose even more meaningful. And I think I think for me, that's the greatest takeaway for an author. So kudos to you, and thank you so much for taking that approach and sharing that with us. Now, I'm going to go a little deeper into the Bayan. It's a Ukrainian musical instrument. So what's the inspiration behind this book, Bayan? And I have the Bayan with me right now. And you see an old man, an aging man from a completely, another part of the world that we are used to. And you are writing about him. What's the inspiration behind this and the protagonist of this story? I'd love to hear Pramudit.
Actually, in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, because I've been in Ukraine many times. The first time it was 2015, early 2015. I visited Ukraine and lived there for some time. And then I discovered a generation that had grown up in communist system during ex-Soviet Union and forced to grow old in modern democracy. So I thought there was a struggle, real struggle. And I thought that was worth telling the world, because these people of Ivan's generation, they are not only limited to Ukraine, but also, they are living in all the ex-Soviet republics. Soviet Union was a very, it's half the world. Huh? So then Bayan, it's not actually a Ukrainian instrument. It's the Russian name for accordion, but what was known or produced during the Soviet time is not as sophisticated as French accordion. So to play it, you have to really push the buttons hard, and it's very rough and demands a lot of composure and energy. So I use that particular old type or Soviet type bayan as a symbol of Soviet Union. So Ivan playing bayan in modern time itself symbolizes his struggle. And then it comes to Ivan. He's not actually, even though he's a real person I met, but 75% of Ivan in the book is my work, based on the little that he shared or he disclosed. So that's where the fictional element comes. But to make sure that it's a credible piece of art, I always be in the, I choose to go and live in the place where the story is set and mingle with the people who are similar to the characters in the story.
Thank you, Pramudith. I couldn't, I think the connection has been a little weak from my end, so I couldn't hear the entire answer. But you said something about symbolizing a struggle. And I think, though, even from our conversations later on the book, this struggle, we see it as a struggle. Okay. And also, I think the way that the bayan is depicted, the journey that I don't want to get too much into the story, but the journey his daughter had to go to find it, and ultimately what she's left with, the lesson, all of it. Yes, it is a struggle, and it shows that life is not this beautiful and easy walk, but we tend to sympathize with this protagonist Ivan, and we think he's suffering, or we feel sorry for him, this aging man who's not having a great life. He just he doesn't care what people think. He dips his fingers into pickles and eats it with his hands. He doesn't care about etiquette. And he uses dirty bins, and he doesn't really worry too much about all these things. It's very comfortable in that normal life, and he's a real person. And I realized that this book touches on some deep-rooted psychological aspects of humans, and especially the meaning of life when you are aging. And also, this is very clearly exemplified in the little things Ivan does, because he doesn't really care what people think anymore. Well, can you shed some light on this? And especially, you have some beautiful psychological, so many different touch points on psychology, which I'll bring a little later also. But just shed some light on this, on the aging process, and aging gracefully. This old man, what do we miss out in our lives as young people?
Yeah, exactly. I think most of the fabric of literature are either made out of philosophy or psychology or hybrids. So there's no exception for Bayan as well. I think in the core of the theme of Bayan, or the spinal cord, is psychology. But when you dig deep into that, Bayan is a story with few parallel stories. But what holds all the stories together is that virtual journey that the reader is taken along the path called aging. And when the reader reads and comes to the end, it becomes an expedition in psychology of aging. That's my experience when I first read Bayan. And then what happens, that was the moment of the most challenging part, actually, when I was writing the book, to you know get into the skin of this 73 years old man, and to try to think in the exact same way he thinks. And what really allowed me to, besides the conversations, what really allowed me to understand his world was these, like this disorganized apartment where he lived. So, coming back to the question, core of the question, the most highlighted area, in the book is Ivan's relationship with his musical instrument, Bayan. So, it's a companionship, and he's talking to it, and he's playing it when he's sad, he's playing it when he's indifferent, when he's playing it when he's happy. So I think this whole story is exploration of psychology of aging. So what I used to depict that is the environment on the one hand, the other hand, the conversations, especially monologues. I think the core of Bayan is exactly what you said. It's healthy aging and the psychology of aging.
Yes, Pramudit, and also I think uh, the the fact that he really doesn't care anymore. What does that mean to us as people? I mean, we are very, we're very conscious about what the world thinks. We want to live a life that, uh, that impresses. And the old person, and often I see this, I can resonate very well with this. The old person, most of the time I've seen a lot of old people, they really come to that point where they don't care. And it frustrates us. It really frustrates us now when we see that they don't care. But I think you said it, or I can't remember if it was in the book. Sometimes it's too late for us to realize that, we will probably get there. What does that really mean, Pramudit?
Actually, in the book, you see, Ivan is not caring about anybody, anything anymore. Finally, what happens when when you are young, you are so ambitious and you take this satanic journey to reach your goals. You are so goal oriented, and you are here to change the world. But when you grow old, what happens, as exactly what happens to Ivan, you tend to realize that you are a part of the planet Earth and the universe, and you need to surrender. And in that mindset, you are not living for others, you are not going to change the world, but you have really understood the rules preset in the world where you have been born. So that's why I think I would say Bayan is rather philosophical exploration of aging as well, because because psychology and philosophy are interconnected in a way.
What made you interested in writing this story in the first place, Pramudit? This is a very different perspective. You're a young person. You have to walk in the shoes of an old person. It's a challenge. Why did you even embark on it?
That's a very good question. Actually, I asked that first in the first place for myself, because then the answer was I like that challenge, because that was the I would say that was the most laborious piece of writing. Huh? I think that's very difficult because I'm used to write about the cultures or the people who are not in my in my world. That's the type of writing I have chosen intentionally, and I live that challenge and love that challenge. But Bayan was beyond, way beyond that, because sometimes those monologues, when I was writing those monologues, I sometimes read them loud, and there were moments I wondered whether I was going mad. No, but that was the rational of, I mean, that was the logic of life I heard in my own voice. Now I realize that was a blessing, I would say, to uncover the world that is going to unveil in front of I mean, in front of me in next 30 years or 40 years time. I did it when I was 37.
And Pramudit, I'm curious to know, how long did you take to write this book? How much of effort did you have to put? Did you, focus only on this book, or did you, multitask? How seriously should you take a book that you're writing about? Especially, this is, not just fiction, and this is not fiction, and this is more real, but it's also, it's a lot of creative writing as well, because it's inspired by the real life of a man. So it's a different genre altogether. So how serious did you take this, and what was your journey in writing this? How much time did you allocate? What did you have to do physically, mentally? Did you want to give up?
Well, first of all, this is one of the books that I mean, I think this is one of the books that I wrote during a very short span of time compared to the other books that I have written. For example, for Girl Who Snatched the Moon, I took 4 years to write and finish the book. Uh, I think for Bayan, it was only 18 months, but 18 months of intense work because of the fact that I was afraid that if I give myself a break, I would forget it. Because it was such a quest, I would say, because I could not really take a break for one day and restart from the place where I, like start from the place where I stopped, because I really thought that I wanted to keep this conversation going. Otherwise, I would not be able to depict the exact thing that I wanted to do. So I think that was I mean, in terms of time, that's 18 months, I would say, I mean, to finish my part. And then writing journey, it was very challenging because I started in when I was in Ukraine, and I made few trips, I think 3 or 4 trips to Ukraine during the time when I was writing. And then I had to go to northern Rakhine state, and that was the place where there were no connections, nothing. And but that utmost isolation, I think it was a blessing. uh, and But I had blocks, yes. Once or twice I had situations where I would sit for 5 hours emptying 7 to 10 cups of coffee and start getting palpitations, but nothing comes out. But I think that is normal, and that is so frustrating, but that's the life we have chosen. And there are days that the words flow, and there are days that nothing flows, but that we have to accept. Because the earlier days, I would say I would easily get frustrated and throw the pen and go out. But now I know that, okay, some days are days of 1 hour, so 1 hour of writing, or or some days just 2 words. So I should be happy with it.
So, is it a myth then, Pramudit, that writers must be inspired all the time? What happens when we are not inspired to write? I mean, does it bring out the best in us, or do we force inspiration? How do we, you know, break that?
I think that, there is always a middle path, because when you are so young, you have this energy, and then you try to push so much. But art doesn't come that way. I think you have to first, relax, and then allow yourself, your mind to be clear. And unless you understand this process should be done that way, and you start pushing, and I don't think that you will be able to reach your fullest potential. And then we all are human. At the end of the day, there's a limit that you can push. I think first of all, the thing of paramount importance as a writer is to explore oneself and understand oneself. Because unless you have not done that, I think you will force yourself to the wall. That's not right. It's not something that you have to, like endure, you know, in your suffering or pain to write something. I don't think that's the case. And then when it comes to inspiration, yeah, when inspiration is I say that's, when you are relaxed and your mind is light, that comes naturally. Treat yourself light. So that's the most important thing, I think.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pramudit. I noticed something about you, and since I know you, and I mean, I know you as a person, and I think the world knows you as an author, and you are also a humanitarian. But something I've noticed a distinct quality about you, you make sure that you're in the place where you're writing about. You're very much involved in it. You are part of that story, literally. Do you think if you are not there, or if someone is going to write about something and they're not coming from that place, you think that could not produce a great piece?
Shamina, I think that depends largely on what kind of things you write. So my pieces of writing, mostly they are on very sensitive issues, and those issues are razor blade sharp. I cannot take the second chance or a chance. I cannot afford taking a chance, because it not only involves my reputation, but it involves hundreds, thousands of lives that are very vulnerable. I cannot play. So my type of writing, for sure, I have to be the first witness. I mean, it should be first-handed. I have to extract the right thing, not the narratives that are flying here and there, because it's the trend, huh? But and then if you choose things which are less sensitive, I think the knowledge is everywhere today. But I would say it's good to be there and do it. Then you will see the real, the life and the dynamics and the the vibrations of society, and everything that you should really bring to the surface through your piece of writing. So it's always good to be there, but then again, first of all, it involves a lot of money, huh? Much more than what you would spend if you self-publish. But as traditionally published authors, we don't really look at that aspect. But again, to go and explore, stay with the people, in a different part, I mean, the other end of the world, and also involves a lot of money, and also there are places where you really cannot get in, so it involves connections. So I think it's a very challenging process But if you can do that, it's very good.
Awesome. And I'd like to know, I'm going to ask you two questions. You said it involves a lot of effort and even money, and of course, time, because you're dedicating a lot of your time. I want to know what's the satisfaction you get out of it. That's one question. And have you ever thought of writing complete fiction? You know, these are all inspired by real incidents, but why not? Why just this? And have you thought of complete fiction?
Well, the first thing in satisfaction is that you are creating a piece of art which is more credible, and you can straight away you can respond. I mean, you can respond to anybody who asks a question about that because you know it, right? Number two, I think again linked to the same satisfaction. I think exploring cultures has become a part of life with me. I love exploring the cultures, and they have transformed me a lot. That's why I mentioned at the very beginning that you need to be a little bit of, have a kind of liquid or diluted identity. That happens to you. And then when you, come to fiction, the latter part of the question, the fiction, yeah, these are fictions. But I would say that, I mean, there's a subcategory called semi-fictions when, I mean, even Da Vinci Code is a semi-fiction, right? So, but most of us, we take it as a fiction. So I would call them fictions. And when you go to a bookshop or in a bookstore, definitely they are under fictions. So complete fictions, I think I would not allow I would not really sit somewhere disconnected from the place where my characters live and try to write something. Unless I don't know, I don't even imagine that. Because I want to see the world's realities and then depict them in with a literal touch. And then I call it a fiction, and they are fictions, definitely, because none of my characters, I mean, I have not disclosed anybody's information, and then all these incidents are mostly fictional, but very much, similar to the incidents that are really happening. So by default, in that way, the books are fictions.
I completely understand. Now I'm going to just go back into the book, the Bayan. Uh, this man, he has a love of his life. He has a wife at some point, and he has two daughters. So the book talks of different forms of love, and also the imperfections of, I mean, you've depicted very real people, a very real woman who is, unhappy and, naggy, and she feels that she's not loved by Ivan, the main character, but he loves her so much. His daughters are from two different women and from two different relationships. And also, he is a man who loves from far. He's loving his daughter from far. He doesn't really have access to her all the time. What are your thoughts on this? What is this message? What do you think about this from a psychological, from a human perspective, from the perspective of wanting to be loved?
Actually, Shamina, what really, I think first of all, we cannot talk about life without talking about love. And literature by nature is an exploration of diverse chemical substances of human feelings and emotions. And love is not an exception. So, and the more multiplex the character is, more feelings are involved in its build, like Ivan. So Ivan is the father of two daughters, as you said correctly. So parental love is there, but then his psychological contract with his ex-wife, and then Nadia, with whom he fathered Olga, the daughter who comes at last in the last latter part of the book, are the key determinants of chemical composition that differentiate the color, smell, heat, thickness, or whatever put in that love he offers to each one of those daughters. And then those themselves are very dynamic, because nothing is static in life. And then, I mean, love for nature, the trees, the sky, snow, you name, whatever they are there. And that is the love that does not pinch his heart. Third form is very complex when it comes to this Bayan, the musical instrument, Ivan's companionship with Bayan. I mean, the non-judgmental companion with whom he's saying anything and everything. So Bayan explores the chemistry, dynamic, and multifaceted nature of love. Basically, in life, I mean, as I said, basically in life, nothing is static. And
Does
Bayan
this
has no, yeah.
does this mean, Pramudit, I may be wrong, somewhere down the line that we are all alone and we have that companion that could be, something like an instrument, a lifeless object, might be our only companion. Is that what the book is telling us?
Yeah, definitely. I was really, I'm actually going to tap into that. So that companionship with Bayan actually is an inanimate object. It doesn't judge him. It doesn't say anything as feedbacks. Nothing negative, nothing positive. Just listen to him. And it's his voice when he plays it when he's sad. His melody is sad, and when he plays when he is happy, it's a happy melody. And sometimes he plays it when he's indifferent. So when everybody leaves home, your daughters, your children, okay, and when you are alone, that loneliness, I mean, the way you cope with the loneliness can be, I mean, the last resort can be something inanimate. But that is, I mean, I don't really say that is inferior to a relationship or a companionship a human being would have with another human being. It's an absolute equal relationship. So that is one of the key elements. I mean, I think those are the bones of the book or story. And then it reflects on the process of aging. I mean, I can take you back to this teledrama in Sri Lanka, Gire, that has a similar thing.
It's a lot of deep thinking, deep psychology, but things that we probably know. I think that you've touched. We know about life. We know about the things that matter. We know that probably loneliness is something we must embrace, and you've beautifully weaved it into words, Pramudit. Now, you are a talented writer, and Bayan was competing against many countries. Why do you think you won it?
Well, actually, when it comes to the long list, there were some English books. And then when I looked at the short list, there were Spanish, French, and Italian books. I think there was a book of Marcio Flocca, also one of the prominent Italian writers. But Italian I cannot understand, but I read all the other two books. I actually bought and read. I think the Bayan's speciality in that was uh, it talked to a wider audience over readership, but it also, at the same time, I think it has really depicted, or it depicts the complexity of human life, or I would say the dynamic interaction between complexity and simplicity. That is, I mean, that is the life. I think Bayan really portrays that. And then when it comes to language, I think I thought at one point, I think when it comes to the chapter, I mean, after chapter 3, I rewrote the book. I think I have not told this in any other interview. You know, why I rewrote the book was I wanted to show that, you know, distortive kind of communication in the language itself. So you say something first and then go back and then connect from the point where you started before, etc. The real age kind of, I mean, aged type of communication. Uh, all together, Bayan depicted the aging man across the world, not limited to Soviet Union or some limited to a specific culture, but it was, I think, cross-culturally written. So, but I'm not going to elaborate on that part because it's a judgment given by the others and readers. But what I heard of different people, I just told you as a, you know, summary. But then again, as authors, we can write, but who really bring the books to the surface of the earth are the readers. I think it's their decision. It's not my decision, or I cannot really give any in-depth analysis about that. But what I heard is that simply. So, yeah, I think that's the case.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pramudit. Pramudit, now I am one of the privileged ones who can learn from you and who can keep, tapping into your magic and your knowledge. So many people, aspiring authors are inspired by you. I mean, they've seen the achievements. You're all over the news, not just in Sri Lanka. You are an international treasure. You brought glory to Sri Lanka. Now, I'd like for you to at least, I'd like to give our viewers an opportunity of the privilege I have, and tell them how can we make it out there? How can these people make it out there? What was your learning from Bayan? I mean, I know you would have gone through a process. Either you self-publish or you find a publisher. Your writing process. The language. I know you used poetry as well in the book. So how much of effort in editing, how much of pain do you have to go through in as an aspiring writer? And I can't remember if this was your first publication, but you know thinking of the first, and then how now I'm sure everyone would want to publish your books, but how was that start and what was that journey? How can we learn from that?
Shamin, I think the number one issue should be you should have that resilience to refuse the refusals. Number one. And I think rather, I mean, if you are really confident of what you are writing, don't try self-publishing, because you really, you know, have a lot of privileges being a traditionally published author, especially the awards and then getting featured in different magazines, recognized magazines, as well as then, I mean, I think you also, I'm not really sure whether in Sri Lanka you have a lot of those magazines, not even a dozen, but out there, you know, across this, this salty ring of water around our island, there are a lot. So I think first thing again is to you should not sing for the VAPs in the backyard. Instead, you should sing for the world. So see beyond this ring of water. I mean, and then never write for awards, but for the readers. That's very important. The others will follow definitely. And then you can get published even after 100 refusals. But the publishers cannot do as much as you could do to expand your readership. You have to roll up your sleeves and take your stories to the world. Otherwise, I think you will be limited, because you can't, you are the only one who could really tell loud and clear the story written by you, nobody else. And then when it comes to publishing journey, I would take some time to explain, because I think there are a lot of new authors around. So first of all, be confident in your writing. And then my experience is, once I finish writing, I get it's cross-culturally tested. That means there's a pool of people from different parts of the world read my story as beta readers, and they give inputs in different layers, like first round, second round, third round, probably we go until seventh round sometimes. And then I also read with intervals. First of all, I write it, and I do the editing, in my limits. I don't really do much after the third round or fourth round. But then I take a break while the beta readers read my book and they come back with the inputs. I read, like, after 2-3 weeks of the last piece of writing I did, and because that disconnection is very important. And then I try to incorporate the relevant inputs of the beta readers, not everything. And then I go another round. So for my new book, I think I have gone so far 4 rounds, and there will be 3 or 4 more rounds. Get your stories read by as much as, many people possible, so that you will get different views from them. I think that is very important. And also, if you are writing in English, get people from different part of the world if you can. That is very important, because English is not a language today that that existed 20 years ago, and somebody would say that English and English with mistakes, because it has gone to a very epic level that Pidgin English in Nigeria is spoken by more than 160 million people, and it's self language. And that of Liberia is Liberian English that doesn't even sound like English. So it's an international language. So I think you really have to get all the people involved if possible.
I think that was so insightful, and I'm so glad you shared that knowledge with the audience. And thank you so much. We tend to forget the process, and we sometimes think it's very easy, to write a book and then expect it to go out there. But I love the fact that you said, roll up your sleeves and, get ready to work hard. And Pramudith, another thing, I know you empower a lot of people, okay, and you want people to go out there and shine. What's your vision for authors, especially from the, let's say, the less developed nations and the ones with less opportunities? What's your vision, and how? I know you're doing a few things to support people, and you are you're sharing your knowledge, and in fact you're guiding a lot of people and mentoring them. So what's your vision for especially this particular group and segment of writers, authors, and talented people?
Okay. So first of all, I will come to Sri Lanka, where like mother, my country of origin. You know, it's really good to look at this in a very critical way because we are growing up in a society where the education is all about an artificially created competition where no one sees that enormous potential that children of our island has in building a creative economy. And we have to realize that first of all, I'm telling to especially to those parents out there, we don't not need, we don't really have so many literary even, and we really, uh, we as an island of 23 million population don't even have one literary agency which is fully functional like that the ones in the in UK or in India. But in India, when you go like 30 or around like 25 to the 40 minutes from this place, and then you land in India, and you will have hundred thousands of literary agencies and review magazines and etc. I think the developing world is very much split, number one. And of course, we have a lot of hurdles, but I am believing in one thing. We have to think global. And I mean, in early part of this year, I opened a review magazine called the Asia Review, but it's not really limited to Asia. It welcomes authors from all over the world because of one thing that I heard. Whenever I reach out to certain reviewers, they say, okay, we are doing the reviews of the books of the African authors or American authors or British authors or Indian authors, etc. Why can't we think global? I think we are a small nation, but we are not too small to think global. So that applies to every single developing nation. We could be developing, but we are not weak or we are not, capable. It's not that we are not uncapable. We are not really, in a position to not to start something that is global. So I think we have to really carry that global mindset. Otherwise, it's not possible to cross these hurdles or the systems that are already in place. I think that's the paramount. I mean, it's of paramount importance.
I thank you for that, Pramudit, because the Asian Review is actually a stepping stone, and I do hope audience would take advantage of it because when your book is reviewed, I believe it is for fiction, and when your book is reviewed, it gives it more visibility. And the fact that you've set this up for authors from different nations, irrespective of where they come from, is actually giving us an equal opportunity to stand out or to be seen out there. So I think that's a great step in the direction of improving literature and developing authors from countries that may not get that chance. Now, Pramudit, we are in the last 4 minutes, and I know you've written a few other books as well, and I know you have some exciting things in store for the audience. I believe your best is probably yet to come. Um, what do you have to say about the past and the future? Now, we have talked about the present. What about the other books and also your future?
Actually, the very first book that I wrote was Footprints in Obscurity. That was my journey across 29 countries across Africa and exploring different cultures and practices, etc., etc. That involves also some interviews with warlords and people who have been tortured. To today's pandemic, and then for future, yes, the girl who snatched the moon. It's a beautiful story, I would say, in my eyes, about a girl who has been trafficked and sold to one of the largest brothels in Bangladesh, and it's about her unyielding desire to go back to school, and she did it at last. So that's the one I'm actually looking forward to, in the hands of the readers towards the end of this year.
And I'm sure that's going to be phenomenal. It's going to revolutionize the industry, and I know it's going to. You are a bold writer, and I must say that you are a bold writer. Want to just tell us why you are such a bold writer, Pramudith?
I don't write to please. I think that's it.
I think the fact that you write for your audience and you write with a strong meaning and a message that you want to take out there makes it all the more worthwhile. Pramudith, it has been great to have you here. We are very, very proud of you as Sri Lankans, and I'm sure the world admires your work, and many people in the world. I think you are a voice for the voiceless. You are a protagonist in your own self for different people, irrespective of geographies, color, creed, irrespective of religion, in fact. And you even in some of your books, you beautifully mastered even religion, so that you don't create any dissonance in the reader's mind or those who of that faith. So it shows how much of detail as a writer you must go into, how much effort you must put in, and how much you must really live in the story. So if you're writing, it must be your life, and it must be coming from the depth of your heart. So thank you so much for being on this program. Thank you so much for your support for Pick a Book, and for readers, writers alike, and those who would, revel in the world of literature. And I do hope that you will bring more success, not just awards, but in terms of the most meaningful messages and a voice for many people out there. And thank you so much for being here. And to our audience, we have been in discussion with Mr. Pramudith Rupasinghe, the author of Bayan, which has won the Global Astor Award, the literary award. And he is an internationally published novelist and author, and he's written many other books set in different countries and settings, from Behind the Eclipse and Footprints in Obscurity. And in future, we will have one from Bangladesh, set in Bangladesh, which is The Girl Who Snatched the Moon, which is going to be yet another, I'm sure, bestseller. And just like many of his books, will sell millions of copies. Please be part of Pick a Book, and you will get to meet and learn from such amazing people as you grow in this journey as readers of Pick a Book. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe and keep reading.
Thank you.